Hey everybody, Keats94 here with another geocaching adventure. I am here in Delta, British Columbia, in the neighborhood of Tsawassen. Behind me, we got ourselves the Tsawassen ferry terminal, where you can basically go all the way to Swartz Bay and eventually to Victoria. I'm right now standing on the peninsula that goes actually below the 49th parallel, and in this episode, I'll explain to you what is interesting about Tsawassen and Point Roberts. In this episode, we'll be looking for a few traditional geocaches as well as an adventure lab that will take us to some excellent parks in the Tsawwassen area. Here we are at an adventure lab stage. I won't tell you the answer because you'll have to come here and figure it out yourself. But this is a waterworks smokestack, and you basically have to find the answer somewhere around here. So come out to Tsawassen, folks. Behind me we have a border crossing, and more will be explained later about why that's the case, so stay tuned. It's not a thumbs up until it's a preformed thumbs up. And sometimes you have to sit back, relax, reach down, and find a geocache. For someone who is getting rid of their car, I have to walk quite a bit. So I've been walking from the west side of Point Roberts to the east side, and glad to be in some fresh air. So right now I am actually standing between two countries. We have ourselves the United States behind me, and on the other side we have Canada, British Columbia. On this side we have Washington State. Point Roberts is a bit of a cartographical error. When the cartographers were drawing the 49th parallel to go across between Canada and the United States, they didn't factor in that Point Roberts actually sticks below the 49th parallel. As a result, and to this day, Point Roberts remains part of the United States. Because it's part of the United States, you have to cross the border through a legal port of entry. So you have to have your passport and your documents to cross into this very small portion of land. Point Roberts is also unique because the only way to access Point Roberts by land is by Canada. So kids who grow up in Point Roberts who are American and who want an American education have to go through Canada to Blaine on the other side of Boundary Bay over here to get an American education. And the only way to do that is to go through Canada. And one of the things that was not factored in when the line was drawn between Canada and the United States was pandemics, and how Point Roberts is essentially choked off from the rest of the United States, and the only way to really access Point Roberts is through Canada. So a lot of Canadians go down to Point Roberts to get cheap gas, to get groceries, to get American chocolate bars, anything that they can take across the border. And so as a result, because of the restrictions crossing north and south of the border, not so much business has been passing through there these days with the coronavirus situation challenging the world right now. And behind me is a very small parcel of land. Like, it is just a rectangle. And on the map, if you look at the lower mainland and see Point Roberts kind of juts south next to essentially the end of the Fraser River. If you go directly south of the estuary of the Fraser River, you'll see Point Roberts. And it really is a very small parcel of land. So, a lot of the people up here in Canada, and probably even in the United States, are saying that perhaps Point Roberts should be annexed and made part of Canada. Of course, I don't know if my American subscribers will appreciate me saying that, but it has really challenged the economy of Point Roberts, and the people in Point Roberts, I think, would be better off part of Canada in the sense that that's where they're at, and especially coronavirus, which has highlighted that situation for them in recent years. So something for both of the Canadian and American governments to think about. Or even a compromise could mean that they get rid of the border crossing altogether, keep it as part of the United States, but Canadians and Americans can freely flow through just Point Roberts, and maybe have a border guard situation, a border guard station at the marina that's on the very south end of this point. You can still access Point Roberts from Bellingham by boat, but aside from that, the only way to really access Point Roberts is by land. So something for our governments to think about, because it is a very small piece of land and it was just a cartographical mistake. So something to think about, folks. Okay, I'm gonna do something that I hopefully won't regret. I'm going to walk closer and closer. I'm so close. I'm like basically in Washington State right now. I should probably get back. I do not have a passport, and I don't want to get a PCR test because those things are not cheap. Well, so ends the day at Beech Grove Park. Thank you for coming along on this geocaching adventure. If you like what you saw, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate that. And more adventures to come. And thank you for exploring. Completed the Adventure Lab. As you can see, this is one of the stages. And I'm really happy to get this one finally done, as well as find a whole bunch of geocaches along the way. So thank you for coming along, and happy caching.